Cinema Vino. This is the concluding episode of our Month of Monster series. We've got Travis Budd.
Hey.
Sean Jordan.
Hey.
And my name is Todd Wofford. And it's good to have you all with us.
It's been a good month of monsters.
It has been. Mm-hmm. It has been. And we're concluding with the biggest of all monsters.
Would you say the king of monsters?
Yeah, exactly. The most monstrous of all.
Except for King Kong.
Is he bigger than Godzilla?
No, he's literally
he's got king in his name.
title.
Yeah.
King of Skull Island.
Godzilla, king of the monsters.
Yeah.
What was the other island in The Simpsons? You remember that when they did the episode where it's like they did Homer,
Homer Kong?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because it was like, at least we aren't at Rock Candy Mountain. It's like what they got there, it's like apes, but they're not as big.
Yeah.
On the big Rock Candy Mountain.
So we are drinking 8,000 Generations, which is a Japanese rice spirit. This is basically almost like rice vodka.
But it's quite, so neutral.
It's very mild.
Not quite as potent.
Like it's aromatically, it smells like really sharp, and then you drink it and it's smooth.
Todd was right. We only needed 2 cubes.
Mm-hmm. I went 4 cubes because I like cubes.
Yeah.
I like it cold.
Because you doubted Todd's pour. And then you made me doubt it, and I added a third.
No, I just generally like cold things.
You have a good reason to doubt Todd's pour.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, sometimes a Todd pour for himself is different from a Todd pour for other people.
Fool me once, shame on you. Mm-hmm. Fool me twice.
Won't get fooled again.
Won't get fooled again.
But I mean, it's like the Matrix with the Oracle. It's like sometimes the Todd pour is exactly what you need.
If you're only having one.
I really want to taste her cookies.
Whose cookies are we tasting?
The Oracle. She made like oatmeal raisin cookies, and she's like, "This is a really good cookie." It's like sometimes what you need in life is just this. Cookie.
Oh, the Oracle from Matrix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I missed that.
So yeah, this is something that basically you can sub in for vodka with like cranberry. You can make a spritzer with it. Pretty much anything you can make a Bloody Mary.
This would make an interesting spritzer.
Mm-hmm. Make an interesting Bloody Mary too. It'd mesh well with like the celery and all the other stuff you throw in there with Bloody Mary.
Huh.
Pepper.
Huh.
Yeah, this tastes like almost water now. That is dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it does have kind of a cucumbery edge to it. You guys get that?
I was almost getting. I always thought it had a little bit of a juniper taste, like rice wines, but
yeah, it can have that kind of herbaceous.
Kind of a sweet gin, if that makes sense. The sweet juniper of gin. I don't know,
but it has sort of like the like woody kind of whiskey notes, like on the nose.
Yeah,
it does not taste like that at all.
No.
If I were to think on it again, I might say that it was a medium bodied with hints of honeydew and natural rice flavors.
Exists in its own self in the world.
Rampage, you say?
We should have enjoyed it straight on the rocks or mixed in a cocktail.
Travis is in a cheating mood tonight.
I think this would be a really interesting thing to see, like a bougie restaurant turn into a cocktail.
Yeah. Oh, I think you make a great martini out of this.
No.
I think you could.
No.
I think not with vermouth. You'd have to do something other than vermouth to harmonize it. But I think it would be good. I think it would be good.
I like to taste the vodka in my martini.
I think you could do this as a martini without the vermouth, but then garnish it with something that brings it alive. Some kind of a lemon or like fruit, something
brightens it up.
Yeah.
This really makes me want to learn Japanese curse words, so I could do the super gravelly anime voice and curse with Rosara, like the very.
Did somebody just get chopped in half?
Yeah.
What was that?
Akira Ifukube, who is the composer of tonight's film.
There you go.
Oh, good. That's a good tie-in.
Akira Ifukube. Continue, Todd.
So 8,000 Generations is supposedly a salute to the emperor. Basically like in Godfather, they say Chinta Annie, 100 years. We should all live 100 years. This is may you prosper for 8,000 generations. That's where this name comes from. So this is about $30 a bottle.
Ooh.
If you're looking for kind of an elegant and different sort of spin on vodka, this would be an interesting thing to do.
This would be an interesting one to bring to a dinner party and kind of spice things up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it would be interesting to do after the meal.
What would you wouldn't pair it with a food?
I wouldn't pair this with the food. No, it's got too much alcohol. It's got too much edge.
Got too much character.
It's too strong. This would overwhelm food. What I would do is after your meal, I would maybe do this, like you could do all sorts of different cocktails, but do some sort of cranberry type spritzer with it.
She's an independent bitch.
You know? Exactly.
I would suggest having it just straight by itself, and
it's not bad straight,
and then trying
it's really nice.
ice and stuff with it.
I don't mind it at all.
I thought this was going to be a lot harsher. 25. I saw 25%. And my eyes went. Ugh.
Yeah, your eyes watered.
Yeah.
So this movie is probably as much as any movie that we're going to do is Travis's wheelhouse. So
would you say that this is more wheelhouse, or Fright Night is more your wheelhouse,
or Kong?
Well. So Kong would probably be more out of Godzilla Kong. I tend to like all the other movies with Godzilla where he actually fights another monster. This is Godzilla being a bad guy.
It's a setup.
This is his origin story.
This one you have to watch because it's fancy. It has to do with the bombs being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and has to deal with all that. It's the origin of the story, and
it's a ham-fisted allegory.
Yeah, I mean,
another good band name.
Ham-fisted allegory. Tonight, ham-fisted allegory.
I say it in that boring tone, but like for me, I always watch the Godzilla movies at in Blockbuster. In fact, I remember being upset that I got Godzilla versus Mothra and Godzilla was the bad guy in it, and crying to my mom and be like, this isn't the one I wanted. Take it back.
Good Godzilla.
And she was like, no, you're fucked. I've come home. I'm not leaving the house again.
Yeah.
You know what I found out?
That was the worst 25th birthday you could have ever had.
Yeah.
I read about this recently. Apparently, Blockbuster had something in their system where like people could put notes into each account's like rental history, so that whenever someone was going to check out, like that little like note about that person's account would pop up. So if there was someone who was like a problem customer or like continuously rented the same stuff or talked about the same kind of movies, it would pop up as like, hey, bring this up to the customer.
Like a no-fly list.
Kinda, yeah. Like Blockbuster had sort of their own like blacklist of shit you could talk about your customer accounts.
It's too much power for one.
I bet Travis's was like,
minute.
this kid fucking loves Godzilla.
Yeah.
You mean, it's not like the library where, people can look up and see exactly what I'm doing. Blockbuster was like the FBI. They were checking out what I was checking out.
You had a profile.
Weird.
Rightfully so.
Weird.
Also like the FBI, which you probably also have a profile.
Rightfully so.
I mean, I definitely have an FBI profile. I mean, my search.
You're on a watch list somewhere.
I've got some like shady. Yeah, I've already got like defenses in my head. I'm like, hey, I didn't know what I was looking up.
I didn't know Mothra porn was illegal. I swear.
I didn't know kaiju on kaiju was frowned upon.
I thought this was America.
Okay, so this is a re-edited and Americanized version of the 1954 Godzilla film that originated from Toho. Correct. So every now and then I'm going to look to you like, am I saying this the right way?
Yeah, the original was Gojira in 1954. This is in 1956.
New footage was shot with Raymond Burr,
who is watching a giant reptile rampage through Tokyo. I think that was the word.
As you do.
Rampage.
And body doubles and new Japanese-American actors fill out the scenes to make it seem like his reporter character, Steve Martin, was part of the original plot shenanigans.
Not Three Amigos, Steve Martin.
Is that... I thought it was.
Because, I imagine a Godzilla movie with Steve Martin in it as a complete film.
And
maybe Martin Short.
I'd watch the shit out of that movie.
And Raymond Burr reprised his role as Steve Martin
in
the 1984 Return of Godzilla. When it was Americanized, it was called Godzilla 1985. And at that point in time, Steve Martin was actually, SNL was much more famous, and they only called Raymond Burr's character Steve or Mr. Martin, never Steve Martin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And at any point during this podcast, if you want to push imaginary glasses up the bridge of your nose, you go ahead and do that.
Also, there were at least 2, if not 3, in the Americanized 1985 Godzilla. there like a Dr. Pepper machine in the background of a hallway, and then one of the ginger army like colonels or something was heavily drinking a Dr. Pepper while watching Godzilla on the screen destroy Tokyo in 1985.
23 great flavors.
So if you want to drink a Dr. Pepper while watching a Godzilla film, go right ahead.
Yeah.
One of the flavors is cinnamon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And another is marshmallow.
And one of them is love. Steve Martin is a worldly reporter.
Wait, what news outlet did he report for?
I believe he said UPI, which is kind of like the AP of that time period. He worked out of Chicago.
He worked out of Chicago, but I thought it was like something world news.
Yeah, it was almost a world.
Or like
he was,
a UPI knockoff.
He was on his way to Cairo. He said that at least 2 times.
Aren't we all?
Always on the way to Cairo. Universal World News. Steve Martin.
So yeah, he witnesses the monster rampage. He
just happened to be visiting
and
going to see his friend, the Japanese
social
Dr.
call.
Sarazawa.
social call on his buddy, Dr. Shirazawa.
What have you been up to? Making an oxygen destroyer? Cool.
Destroying any oxygen recently?
Samesies.
Neat. It's just me, the traveling journalist, on my way to Cairo.
Just nuking all the fish in my fish tank. Check out the bones. They look like something Garfield just ate. So the film is a very deliberate attempt to evoke the destruction and doom of the nuclear age.
Ham-fisted allegory.
Exactly. This is very deliberate for Japan, as they are very famously the only country to experience the devastation of nuclear warfare and actual combat. With the bombings and destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which the footage in this movie very feels like a like you said, allegory, like it evokes those scenes of people laying in triage.
Very specifically, like the people being treated for like radiation burns.
And then of course it's like it turns out that Godzilla was, the catalyst was, the H-bomb tests brought him out of the water.
Tests being done over the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of tests they could have been.
Yeah. Which that time period the Army was conducting tests in the ocean, like they destroyed
Bikini Bottom.
Yeah, they sank several
Bikini Atoll.
Yeah, Bikini Bottom. I prefer Bikini Bottom.
Well, no, Bikini Bottom. The whole joke is that Bikini Bottom it's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Bikini Atoll.
Supposedly, Trav, you can confirm or deny that the original cut of the film was much more socio-politically charged. The Japanese version had more anti-American sentiment to it.
I want to say
imagine why.
Yes. It's man, both films are night and day. I was going to start watching the original Gojira after this, and this film is like it's from an NPC's perspective, because they show the main actors, and then Raymond Burr is sitting there in the background like, what the fuck did that guy say? And then his interpreter tells him right next to it. It's just like, it's kind of interesting because he's so far back away from the action that he's just sitting there and being like, it's basically he's looking to anybody else and then we're like, what the fuck that guy
going on?
What that guy?
Interpret all that.
Why is everybody so mad?
And I thought there
right
was
now?
much more dubbing. There's not too much except for
They keep a lot in Japanese.
when Sarazawa, when they're confronting him about the oxygen destroyer, is the most dubbing that you actually see.
Sick eye patch though.
Yeah, that's true. And then the only thing you get about the 3 lovers, the triangle, is him standing on the boat, Raymond Burr, watching them and be like, well, for them, it was the old lovers triangle, and that's all he explained. That's all you get. But what's interesting is that
They really just yada 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 over it.
is that it somewhat works. You don't know what they're talking about, but he gives you enough info to be like, oh, they're talking. Oh, no, she's sad. Oh, he's sad. Oh, no, they want to, but they can't. And you're like, all right, I get the gist.
Yeah.
I understand it.
No, I get it.
So Perry Mason is basically like a glorified Greek chorus in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Have you watched The Perry Mason on HBO?
I have not.
It's not bad.
2 seasons?
I think so. Yeah.
Travi, this is your wheelhouse. So Reader's Digest.
It's your time to shine, baby.
What would you give this?
This is not one of my favorite Godzilla films, but it's necessary to start the whole shebang off. And I get that this is the only one That's the super fancy pink in the air version. I understand that it's an important film, especially after the fucking bombs were dropped, and that it's allegorical in that way, and that it's been used several times for that same thing. This is not my favorite Godzilla film. I watch Godzilla films because when I was 6, 7, 8 years old on Saturday mornings, I would watch Super Scary Saturdays with the guy that played Grandpa Munster. Hosting movies, and all I wanted to see were people dressed in monster costumes beating the shit out of each other over like fake cityscape.
You just wanted to watch wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
You
I
were just
wanted to
watching
watch
wrestling.
cosplay wrestling.
Yeah.
Like Skyline Wrestling.
Like
Yeah.
King Kong versus Godzilla, that was my mecca.
It's Godzilla with a
That
steel
is
chair.
like that is the direction I would pray to.
That was your Mecca, but not your Mecca Godzilla.
That's
Hey yo.
like if I got in trouble in preschool when I was, whatever, 5, I remember this distinctly. We were learning about dinosaurs, and I was like, "Oh fuck yeah!" I
know Godzilla.
I had seen
My
King
favorite
Kong
dinosaur.
fight the T-Rex, and I brought my King Kong toy because we were making fossils in like clay that was being then fired or Play-Doh or whatever. I got in trouble because I brought my King Kong. And they were like, "You can't do that." I was like, "Oh, I don't give a shit. I just wanted to."
It's
Anyway,
not a real dinosaur trap.
I cried until I got my way. King Kong and Godzilla were my bread and butter.
Yeah.
This film for me, actually, especially this film, the Americanized version, I gotta say it's a 6. I mean, it's good, but if you watch the original with subtitles, that's got to be at least a 7.5. It's much, huh?
Well, go ahead and finish your thought, but I had a question.
It's much better, more cohesive. They've totally left out the fact that on Odo Island, where they find Godzilla, there was an orphan kid that ran outside to see Godzilla, and then his parents got killed. And that somehow he was brought in and somewhat adopted. It's been a while since I've seen the original Gojira.
Yeah.
But they yada over several character arcs just to Americanize the film and get American asses in seats to watch it.
Yeah.
How widely available was the original Godzilla in America at the time?
The 54 probably not
Gojira?
much at all.
I don't think it was.
Was the 56 version really just them being like, okay, we could take this movie and we could get it American enough that we could sell this?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get a little Raymond Burr in there. That's what you need.
You know who everyone loves? Raymond Burr.
You know what it kind of reminds me of is the Power Rangers TV show.
That's
It's where they're
absolutely what I was going to say.
It was like Super Sentai. Once they got in the suits and were fighting the Mechazords,
They just took clips of the like Japanese show, and then they just sort of cut it in and out with like just some American actors to like, get some of the main plot points. But then once it was action, mouths were covered. No one knew who was in there.
Yeah, 100%.
That was my shit as a kid. I was all about the Power Rangers, and that was all Sukaju fights.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, what's that meme about? Like, you will never know what it's like to see the Green Ranger giving the Rangers the business for 5 straight episodes. That it had us in a choke.
It was a 3-episode arc. I had it on VHS. I watched it on repeat.
Like, oh my God, Tommy, calm down.
Yeah, Tommy kicked their asses.
He did. R.I.P.
He jumped off the ground onto the top of the Zord, got into the Zord, kicked them all out of the Megazord, and then kicked their asses on the ground.
Yeah. Fucking, he had the dragon sword.
Disrespectful.
Now,
he had the dragon flute.
he had a little flute.
Yeah, that was badass. That was badass.
It was a little fluty.
It was more like a ocarina, really.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the Macarena.
Do you still remember the tone to call the Dragon Zord?
I think it was. Yeah.
Moving on.
What is the best Godzilla film?
Now, this is me. I really love King Kong versus Godzilla. That one's great. I love Ghidorah the 3-headed monster because that is Godzilla Rodan, and Mothra, Caterpillar Mothra. I don't know, whatever.
Is that
all
Mothra
fighting,
before Mothra turns into
Ghidra.
full-size Mothra?
Yes.
Okay.
Mothra before Mothra was cool.
And then I also really love, just for me, Terror of Mechagodzilla. One, because it's got Mechagodzilla in there. It's his second film. And then it's got an obscure monster, Titanosaurus, who doesn't have any cool flashy powers, but he's just an excellent creature monster design. Now, that's just the Showa era Godzilla.
I was going to say, so when do you think the era of like a modernized Godzilla started being a thing, and like what's the cutoff for that? Is that 98 Godzilla?
They actually named them after, I believe, I'm going to get this wrong. I believe either whatever like emperor or whatever president is, whatever leadership is going on in Japan at the time. So there's the Showa era, which has to do with, I don't know if it's somebody named Showa. That's all I know, is that some regime, the Showa regime or Showa era, as far as I know. And as I sit here in my profound ignorance, that is what I understand. And then there's the...
You're the
Heisei,
expert at the table. I don't know.
the Heisei era, which is, or Heisei era, Hesei, which starts in the Return of Godzilla in 1984 and goes to 1996. And that has like 6 or 7 films. It's Return of Godzilla. It's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, Godzilla Mothra Battle for Earth, Godzilla versus Super Mechagodzilla or Mechagodzilla 2, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, and Godzilla vs. Destroyer. And then you get Godzilla 1998. And that's a completely separate deal. But then after Godzilla 98 came out, Japan was like, what the fuck is this? And came out with their own in 99, but it was called Godzilla Millennium or Godzilla 2000. And that was the Millennium version. And you got several more movies. And
I will say, 98 Godzilla is probably my first
introduction.
That's my first introduction to Godzilla. Mm-hmm. And the thing I remember the most about it was the Taco Bell tie-in.
Yeah.
There was like a heavy marketing campaign with Taco Bell with that Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Diddy? Was it Diddy?
Mm-hmm. And Jimmy Page?
Didn't age well.
Yeah, they did a 3. I love Puff Daddy.
You shouldn't.
Well, look, they had a 3-way tie of things I loved. Puff Daddy, Led Zeppelin, and Godzilla.
And Taco Bell.
And the Kashmir Come With Me.
Yeah, okay, that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they even did did they do a different version? No, that's it. Never mind. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But
it's a different
anyway, Godzilla King of the Monsters is okay. But yeah, I give it a 6.5.
John?
Just off the bat, I give it a 5. It was fine. Just not a movie I would go out of my way to watch. I feel like I would have enjoyed seeing the 54 version more.
Yeah.
Just because...
The authentic version.
Yeah, like seeing the original, like the OG. Culturally, I feel like we've come a long way from where we were in 1954, that I feel like the impact of that movie would have gone or done a lot more than what the 56 movie was, which was like a weird American self-insert into, wow, look at me, I'm observing these phenomenon of the Japans.
And you just see the back of people's heads when they're talking to Steve Martin.
Right. And it's just
very awkward.
They're not there.
Yeah. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. They did the same thing, but with the comedy
That's true.
aspect of it, right? Is they kind of brought in the body doubles to do the weird scenes, and they just awkwardly self-inserted like the American character. It felt really jarred. Like you could tell that it was like another movie spliced into another movie.
Yes.
And you could tell it was like a very neutered plot. Like the actual Godzilla itself was not really much of like it was just not part of the movie.
Not very much.
I got to say one more thing. In the Heisei era, after Return of Godzilla, there was Godzilla versus Biollante. I know I missed another one. It's a plant-based Godzilla monster character. Very niche, but also very cool. Biollante. I fucked that one up. 1989.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, I struggled with the amount of Godzillas that are out there. I feel like I struggled to find the right one. Even like trying to go back, you guys were in the text chain like, oh yeah, it's a 56 Godzilla. Oh God, that's the Ray Burr Godzilla. I had no fucking idea which Godzilla it was. I had to like look on IMDb, find Ray Burr, find which one he was in, find which one like, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's not Godzilla. And I went back and found like 54 Godzilla, and I was like, no, it's not 54 Godzilla. They keep saying 56. Like, surely there weren't 2 movies that came out within 2 years of Godzilla.
No.
There fucking were. But, you know, I got there eventually. Yep. There's a million Godzillas. There's so many fucking Godzilla movies.
There's 15 in the Showa era, and then there is, I want to say 6 or 7 in the Heisei. Probably 7 because I forgot Biollante.
But like even within the last 5 years, there have been a ton of Godzillas that have come out. Godzilla -1 and then Godzilla King Kong came out within like 4 months of each other, right?
7 in the Heisei era. Yeah.
And that remake of Godzilla King of the Monsters was terrible.
Yeah, it's like the 2019 one, right?
Horrible.
Oh, the one with where he's fighting Ghidorah?
Yeah.
Yeah, or King Ghidorah. Yeah, I didn't love it. The monster designs were great, but they kept focusing on a fucking Humvee and the monster ankles. I don't give a shit about monster ankles.
No.
I like a monster ankle though.
Yeah. I like a monster.
A
anklet.
Victorian kaiju ankle.
Yeah, that's right. You know,
Yeah, show me some ankle. So what would you give this one?
5.
5?
I give it a 5.
For me, I would say this is a 6.5. I've seen it like once before on like a AMC or somewhere it popped up. I would say that, you know, if you're looking for an entrance into the Godzilla mythology, not the worst place to start for an American audience. You get Raymond Burr, you get a more Americanized version of it. It's a little softer. You know, it's a softer entrance point than going full Japanese version.
I don't know. I feel like going full Japanese version would be more genuine.
It would be. It would be for somebody who's wanting to do like the nerdy dive into the story. For a novice who is like just looking to get into the Godzilla storyline,
Just want to dabble.
this wouldn't be terrible.
Sure.
Oh, so you asked me what the best Godzilla movies were. Those were my personal favorites. If you're really wanting to watch Godzilla, watch the original Godzilla or Gojira, 1954.
Also a great metal band.
Yep. The Return / Godzilla 1985, and then which came out Godzilla in 85.
I think Gojira is touring with Korn, doing like
then-
an opening show with Korn.
Yeah.
And then the other ones worth
Tool.
watching from
Are they really?
a fancy standpoint is
I would see that show in a heartbeat.
is Shin Godzilla in 2016. And then obviously the most recent one, Godzilla -1.
Not the most
Now-
recent. That's the second most recent.
Oh, and
We have a new
now we have
Godzilla
Godzilla now.
They're coming out so fast you
those
can't
are the
even
ones,
keep track.
But it's interesting to know that the ones that people think that are more film worthy and not just popcorn movies are ones where Godzilla is not fighting another creature. It's the ones primarily where Godzilla is the villain,
The antagonist.
and it's as if he's never showed up before, and he's just shown up. So it's original Gojira, Godzilla 1985, which is kind of an extra one, Shin Godzilla, and Godzilla -1.
So you're a 6.5?
6.5?
5?
6.5,
6.5.
yeah.
I'll say 6.5. Raymond Burr feels very tacked on now that I know that. It's hard. You can't unsee
You
it.
can't unsee it.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But yeah, and also this is a time capsule. If you want to go back and see,
Yeah.
you know, how they made a film for American audiences of Godzilla, this has a time capsule value to it. You know, it's a story in its place and time.
Also, kind of terrifying to think the Japanese put this movie out like less than 10 years after
Hiroshima
Hiroshima.
and Nagasaki. Two of their cities got destroyed.
Like that wound is very fresh.
Very close.
Like
Also, there's just
just like putting out a 9/11 movie in like 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to think like, cool, they filmed it in 1954, but some of those Godzilla looking over the thing, like, it's just rough.
Yeah.
little sock puppet.
The helicopter, the damaged helicopter
Yeah,
on the island that's like clearly just a toy.
Like, bloop.
Just bleh.
Yeah. Now some of the effects were done better than others, and the ones I found that were better were not watched, like they didn't linger on for too long. They showed really quick. Oh, he knocked that over, and then they moved on, and you were like, oh no, a train got knocked over, and then they moved along.
Yeah.
But yeah, historical context. I think it's just interesting to think about like where we were as a country in 1956.
Yeah.
Compared to where Japan was in 1954. When they came out with their version, America was clearly like, we gotta tone this down a bit.
Yeah.
You know what?
We were the heroes.
Exactly.
We did the good thing.
In historical fashion, the last weird Godzilla movie, and the reason why we didn't get a Godzilla movie here in the 90s, the last one that showed up in theaters was Godzilla 1985 with Raymond Burr reprising his role. But in early 90s, there was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. And for some reason, they've retooled.
Can you clarify? Is it Ghidorah? Ghidorah?
It's originally, at least, it switches because they Americanized the words from Japanese.
Okay.
So when I saw it first, it was Ghidra, the three-headed monster. And then I've seen Ghidorah. I think Ghidorah is correct. But there was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah in, 91 or something? And they retooled Godzilla's origin as being like basically a T-Rex that was on this island, I guess in the Bikini Atoll, that some Japanese sailors from World War II were hiding out on. And then American soldiers were showing up to kill them, to take them, to either capture or kill them. And this T-Rex kind of showed up and killed the Americans. So the Americans were the bad guys there.
Yeah.
And then the Japanese were like, oh my God, he saved us. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so it was even on Entertainment Tonight. They're like, oh, the new Godzilla film is the Americans are the bad guys, and we're not going to show it here in the States. And I was like,
provocative.
I was like, damn it, I don't give a fuck. I just want to see a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
You're telling me there's a new Godzilla and I don't get to see it?
Yeah. And so that was like, I was chasing for the longest time. It was not a great movie. They showed Mecha King Ghidorah in it, but it's not great.
Now, Travis, you have a history of chasing movies that are not available in this country.
Yeah. God, Godzilla Raids Again was the last movie I ever got to see.
We have to do King Ralph.
Oh, that's right.
Region 2?
Chasing on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. I have it.
We've done Mean Guns. We have to do King Ralph.
Yeah.
God, the Mean Guns.
With the weird aspect ratio.
Yep. 1740.
My eyes still haven't adjusted.
Nope.
Mean Guns is great. Soundtrack is phenomenal.
But this has been another episode of Cinemavino, and we thank you guys very much. Enjoy 8,000 Generations, Japanese sochu rice spirit.
Goes down smooth.
It does. It's surprisingly good. I did not expect much. I expected to be drinking turpentine.
Yeah, I did too.
This turned out to be surprisingly
And this is a goodbye to the monsters. This is the end of our monster series.
And then we're going to do
Too bad. So sad.
a good comedy series after this. So we'll start with Napoleon Dynamite for you guys next week. After that, we'll move on to Pulp Fiction and then Ghostbusters. So a strong lineup of films. So, but we got Sean Jordan.
Hey.
Travis Bud. Brad Tudd. Is that your Godzilla roar?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
It's
Can we all do our best Godzilla roar or an outro?
Last thing, the guy, who was the guy
I
that
did my outro. It's over.
Seven Samurai?
Akira Kurosawa.
Akira Kurosawa. He was also involved with the first Godzilla movie.
Ooh.
I think he was homeboys with the guy that either wrote it or directed it, and he may have helped him do a pass or something. But anyway, he was involved, or at least fist bumped somebody that was on part of this movie.
Good stuff. That was a little bit like the donkeys in Pinocchio that get transformed.
Akira Ifukube did the score, which has proliferated and is been all over the place in all the films.
Great movie.
That's clearly just a donkey.
Only drunker. But we will see you guys next time.
Signing off.
Love you.